My name is Marika Jang. I am Executive Director of Poe Baltimore and the Awards Administrator for the Saturday Visitor Awards, a new honor presented by Poe Baltimore and the Edgar Allan Poe House and Museum, recognizing a new generation of artists and writers inspired by Edgar Allan Poe. I'm so very pleased to welcome Carmen Bouldin this evening. She is a 2020 Saturday Visitor Award nominee in the original works inspired by Edgar Allan Poe's life and writing category for her beautiful poem, The Raven's Mourning. Thank you, Carmen, for making time to sit with us this evening.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Well, such a beautiful piece. Please share with us, talk about the poem.
The poem's inspiration came from a couple of different things. Of course, my love for Poe. The Raven is one of my all-time favorite poems. Read it as a very young teen. Just loved the melody that came out of it, and just the darkness and everything Poe. And then just the mystery surrounding Poe's death. And so he died so young and probably had so much more to give to the world that I felt like with the way the poem I set it up, it's the couplets and the first starting with the Raven speaking to Poe in his grave, and then Poe kind of talking back to the Raven. And so at the very end, it talks about, he writes one word on his grave, and I don't reveal what that word is, and just to keep that mystery alive, and kind of tying it into, he's, the master of the detective story, the, originator. And one of the first stories I read from Poe was the Murders in the Rue Morgue, and just fell in love with it, and have been writing poems, mystery stories ever since. I've been writing since I was in about the 3rd, 4th grade. And of course, my writing has gotten better over time. It's still not perfected, but I love it.
It's a lifelong pursuit, isn't it? Writing.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, this is a very special year. This is the 2nd year you have been nominated for a Poe-inspired work. So clearly Poe is very much an inspiration for you. Can you tell us about the other work that you do?
Yes, I also paint, and my medium that I use is acrylics. I have not dabbled in oils, but and the piece that I was selected for last year for nomination was There's No Place Like Poe.
So a 2-time nominee, I clearly inspired by Edgar Allan Poe, and then you've talked about this sort of deeply personal Poe is, and this is such a truth for all of us. Does Poe continue to inspire your work? What are you working on now, or are you just always creative?
I am always creative. I also sew as well. And so when the Black Cat Ball, the first year and last year, I made my dress for both of those events. But one of the paintings I'm working on now is, I haven't titled it yet, but I've kind of taken the ladies that are in Poe's poem, Annabelle Lee, Berenice, and I haven't decided on the 3rd one yet, who it's going to be, but it's going to be almost like they're visiting each other in a kind of a little living room, and you're going to see the back of their heads, and then up on the mirror you're going to see what they would look like in their death. And so just kind of that mirror image, and just bringing in some of those elements of those different poems.
Oh, that's really, really exciting. Well, I can't wait to see it. Of course, I hope that you will, once this work is finished, submit it for the award.
I will.
Well, how can we find more of your work, and what's the best place to find you?
I have a website. It's called The Quotable Raven, and I have a link that I can share as well. And I'm also on Facebook at The Quotable Raven as well.
Oh, that's so much fun. Thank you so very much. And you made me sad when you talked about the Black Cat Ball, but I do remember your dress from last year, and hopefully there will be an opportunity for you to come back to Baltimore, and we can dance into the night.
Yes.
Once again, thank you so much for being with us. Wonderful.
The Raven's Mourning. Gliding through the air over miles makes me smile, since it's been a while. 169 count I, the years to wait and the years to lie. Dampening misty clouds I soar to prove the lore for which I bore. Creeping up from darkness my grave, where I've been sworn a summoned slave. Oh, my poet, will he waken? I shan't wait. Oh, my soul is aching. Curiously cut, life strangled short, still asked, was it madness or port? Oh, only living 40 years, I cried more than a million tears. If I only could write again to explain my death for my friends. Landing on the hard stone I seek, pecking as a knock with my beak. Familiar sounds doth come to free, now stirring as if luring me. Come forth to fill my life with words for your waiting, sad, lonely bird. With a pen and pondering brain, for you now I will go insane. Scratching on the stone of his grave, he wrote one word, seeming depraved. The raven bowed his head content, as the poet's pen did relent. Thank you, sir, for the writings poured. It's my time to be nevermore. I go now to a restful sleep, my secret not hidden or deep. Once upon a dark moon rising, one may see a raven flying o'er the grave, his poet dear, to protect his soul with no fear.
Was it madness or port? I love that line from that poem. If Carmen's out there, hi, thank you so much for that interview. Obviously, these were taped a few months ago. Feels like years ago, considering the week that we just had. But hi, everyone. Enrica Chang here, director of the Edgar Allan Poe House and Museum. Poe Baltimore, the nonprofit organization that stewards Poe House, as well as awards administrator for the Saturday Visitor Awards, an honor recognizing a new generation of artists and writers and poets inspired by Edgar Allan Poe. Was it madness or port? I've had an interesting a couple of few days, I'm sure we all know everybody has, but I have been asked to look back and reflect on the past year and been asked what keeps me creative, and looking and talking to the creatives when it comes to the awards, when it comes to getting ready for this year's festival, what keeps us creative, what's keeping us going. I'm curious and interested in hearing everybody's answers. But I think after all of this is over, we're going to look back on our creative endeavors and perhaps wonder, was it madness or port? Thank you all for joining this evening. Now, I did note that unfortunately a small segment of that interview was clipped, and we will show a link to Carmen's piece that she was nominated for in 2019. Unfortunately, that didn't make it into the interview, but when these videos go on Facebook, when they go on YouTube, we'll make sure that there is a link to those pieces, but you can find her work at quotableraven.com. So hi to Carmen. She's out there this evening. And yes, waiting for hopefully one day to get back to the Black Cat Ball. Love dancing into the night. So we are here to do a live Q&A, talk about the Saturday Visitor Awards. One more week until the call for entries opens. I'm going to share with you some of the same tips and tricks that we've been talking about this whole time, but I did receive a couple of questions this past week that I thought were actually very interesting. I'm going to share those with you. And then also a request to go over the call for entries form itself to talk about the specific questions, including the artist statement, as well as the description of the works and what we're looking for, or what the judges will be looking for when we see your entry forms. So Saturday Visitor Awards, quick frequently asked questions, and of course the dates to remember. Next week, happy birthday, happy 212th birthday, Edgar Allan Poe. January 19th, the call for entries opens for the Saturday Visitor Awards. You will visit SaturdayVisitorAwards.org and enter via the portal there. The deadline to enter the awards is May 30th. So we will continue to bang the drum, try to get people get attention to and let people know the deadline doth approach as the months go by. But May 30th is the deadline to enter. Once the portal closes, the forum closes at 11:59 p.m. at 1 minute before the stroke of midnight. About a month later, 2 months later, the nominees will be announced July 30th. The judges take that time to deliberate, take a look at those nominees, and then there are 3 judging rounds. The nominees are announced, the official nominees are announced July 30th, and then the awards are presented live, perhaps not in person. We still don't know, but we're hoping in person, but definitely live at Poe Fest International. That's the International Edgar Allan Poe Festival and Awards in Baltimore, or online. That website again, SaturdayVisitorAwards.org. Now you will find updated entry guidelines there. You can download the PDF, so you can study them at your leisure, but they are also listed on the website, also along with some other frequently asked questions that we see. However, if you have a question, if you want to ask something specific to your entry, or you're thinking about a piece that you may have created that you would like to enter, you're not sure where it goes or which category, do not hesitate to send us an email at contact@poefestinternational.org. We'll show that email address in just a bit, but contact@poefestinternational.org. You can send specific questions about your piece, or any questions that you were a little too shy to send my way this evening, but I am going to be live for a couple of minutes here. So if you do have some questions, please feel free to type those in the comments. You can send them our way. Now, after the Q&A ends this evening, we do ask, please don't use social media to send your questions, or like tag us for specific questions, or send us direct messages on Twitter or on Facebook. The best thing to do really is to visit the website and send us an email, and staff can get back to you. Quick. Now, the Saturday Visitor Awards categories. Awards are presented in 2 categories, and as ever, I will show a brief video that explains our guidelines, what we're looking for. So those 2 categories, the first category, adaptations of Poe's life or works, examples given portraiture, biography, given the narrative nature of biography. Biography would fit in this category. Now, please note the Saturday Visitor Awards are not for academic criticism or other scholarly works. So we're really looking more for artistic works for these awards. So the festival is not a conference. The festival is, well, conferences can be fun, but the festival is for fun. The festival is for artistic works. So not so much criticism, but film, dramatic adaptation of Poe's life, direct adaptations, those would fall in those categories. The second category, original works inspired by Poe, where Poe appears perhaps as a character, or somebody from Poe's life appears as a character, a period of Poe's life as inspiration for film, novel, or play. Sequels and prequels to Poe's work would fall in this category, or any basis for an original story inspired by Poe, and of course, original poetry. Hello again, Carmen. So if you have any questions about these categories, we do know that when we're talking about historical characters, things can skate a little bit. Obviously, all works are original, but the adaptations category really looking more for direct adaptation of Poe's life or works, or direct historical interpretation of Poe, whereas an original work can take a little bit more dramatic license. But I will note, I haven't noted this for a couple of weeks, but somebody asked me about this. The judges will determine if they feel a piece is more fitting in another category. the judges on the slate will then decide whether or not they would push to the other category. So you won't necessarily be dropped or anything like that if the judges feel that your work has been entered in the wrong category. They will send a note back to me, and the awards administrator, will kind of switch a category. But do your best, or contact us before you send your work in. When in doubt, send your question and we will get back to you. Now, questions about eligibility. The highlights are these: media, art, performance, and or writing that adapts or is inspired by Poe's life and works. There are no restrictions by medium or genre. And that's where I got a really good question this week by a children's book author. She wrote in asking if she were to enter a children's book inspired by Poe, if that book would be compared in the same by the same judges who are looking at perhaps a book intended for a more mature audience, or if there were subcategories within each category. And the answer is no. Any work entered in the original works category. Films are judged in the same pot as poetry, in the same pot as novels, in the same pot as children's books, that kind of thing. And so any works entered in those categories are ranked against one another. And so there's no separation, further separation by that. And then the second question she asked, and I thought this was actually quite an excellent question, did I feel that a children's book wouldn't be able to or would be sort of ranked differently than perhaps a piece created a little bit more mature, a little bit more gothic, that kind of thing. We do, and my answer to her was that we do have educators on our panel of judges. I don't feel that that would hinder anybody's entry. And as a matter of fact, the creator has an opportunity to send a statement to accompany their piece and talk about how their intention with the work, and talk about their intended audience, and then talk about how that work is inspired by Poe. And that's really what we're looking at, an adaptation of Poe's work or work inspired by Poe. We welcome any genre, any medium. Now, the work must be released, printed, distributed, or first performed between January 1, 2018 and December 31st, 2020, which means if you're creating a work in 2021, even January 1, 2021, unfortunately, you are not eligible to enter until next year, but the awards will still be here. Knock on wood, the awards will still be here, so you'll be eligible next year. So we're looking at pieces that were created, distributed, printed, first performed within the last 3 years. Now, a question we got a couple of weeks back is, does social media count? And absolutely, social media does count. Please note that any post where a poem or a piece, painting was shared with the public, that post must be available to the public, must be able to be seen. So it shouldn't have privacy settings on it. We should be able to access that piece. But social media definitely does count as distribution. So pieces released that way do count, or posted on your website, this kind of thing. The idea is to get it out in front of people within this eligibility guideline. Now, every year the awards are awarded to pieces created, distributed within the previous 3 years. So there is a rolling eligibility period of time, and eventually pieces do get phased out. So you want to make sure that that you're entering pieces created and distributed within that period of eligibility. Now, reprinted or re-released materials are discouraged. What we mean by this is that, let's say you created a piece 6 years ago, you feel it's inspired by Poe, but you want to enter the awards, and so you change something very small and then enter the piece again. The judges at that time would decide whether or not that piece merits it has been changed in a material way so that it would become eligible again. So there's a bit of an honor system there, but the judges will ask, and we ask you to be honest about whether or not the piece was in fact created in the period of sort of printed, distributed, or first performed in this period of eligibility. So, and the judges make that final determination. Now, a work may be nominated in more than 1 year, so our previous nominees are invited to submit their works again for consideration, but a winning entry may not be entered again. All right. Hello, Carmen. Hello, Liam. I see your comments. Hi, guys. Hope you're doing well. All right. So I promised I would talk a little bit more, or again, I should say, about the entry form. So the call for entries opens again January 19th, and the questions that are asked about your piece, artists do have an opportunity to talk about the piece, provide a description or synopsis. Now, the awards are administered obviously administered remotely. The first year of the festival, in fact, we had someone submit a piece that, in point of fact, was physically quite imposing. It was a giant painting, and he was a little bit worried that the piece might not translate in a digital form. So how to convey to the judges the true scope of the work, the true scope of the project. And this is the opportunity. You are asked to provide a description or synopsis of the work, including medium or genre. Please also note these things like size, dimensions, duration, or any site-specific or process details that might not be readily apparent. Another example, on the first and the second year of the festival, we had immersive theater entered for consideration, and obviously the judges couldn't fly to Australia to experience these things, but the piece that they submitted really did convey that experience, and then the description in the statement was very, very helpful in conveying to the judges what they might not see immediately in just the promotional pieces that they sent us. So you do have an opportunity to really get into the guts of your work and explain it to the judges and tell them what they might not see at first glance, and that's your opportunity to say. And you're giving quite a bit of space to, in fact, provide a thorough description. When it comes to now, especially with social media and long form podcasts, other flash fiction, series, this kind of thing. We would consider those long form entries, films, novels, scripts, or series. We do ask that you please highlight a segment from the piece. You are submitting the entirety of the piece, but we're asking you to highlight your segment, the favorite segment, the segment that you would like the judges to take a look at. When it comes to written works, a maximum of 10,000 words, or a timestamp, 20-minute duration from the piece. Unfortunately, with the number of entries that the judges will be reviewing, they can't spend as much time as they might like with a piece. And so you want to highlight for the judges the best 10,000 words or the best 20 minutes that you feel will really convey your pieces, and the judges will evaluate the segment in the first round of scoring. If you don't provide a segment, the judges will automatically default to the first 10,000 words or the first 20 minutes of your entry. Now, the judges do have an opportunity in later rounds if they want to see more of the piece, or a piece has sort of risen up for contention. They might have an opportunity to look at more, for instance, another chapter of a novel, or they might want to watch the whole film. And that happens in the later category. So that you have that first chance to make a great first impression with those 10,000 words or this 20-minute duration of a longer piece. Now here is the artist statement. The statement and the rights holder, please describe how Edgar Allan Poe or his writing is the subject or inspiration for this work. This statement is to help the judges understand how your work keeps Poe in popular culture, how it celebrates Edgar Allan Poe's legacy, how you are a continuation of Poe's legacy by adapting his works or creating original works inspired by that writing. So this statement should draw a direct line from Poe to the work, and this is where really talking about motivation and really talking about intention, the intention of the piece. And the judges in their guidelines, in their deliberation, they're looking at whether or not the artist fulfills the stated intention. And that's hopefully a little helpful in how you would phrase this. You do get quite a bit of time, the character limit of 10,000 characters, to explain to the judges your statement of intention and this relationship to Poe. So I hope that it gives people a little bit more insight into what we're looking for in this form call for entries as you are considering whether to answer the call for entries. Do you see a question here from Leanne? I have something to submit this year, but waiting on editing to come back with updates. Where do we submit? Now, this question, Leanne, it seems to indicate that your piece is not completed yet. And I will remind you that any piece that is not created yet, any piece that has not been printed yet, any piece that has not been distributed yet, unfortunately, is not eligible until next year. Now, if that is not the case, and I'm misunderstanding this question, you will have the opportunity to enter your piece January 19th when the call for entries opens. Hope I answered that clearly. If you have a follow-up question, please feel free to send those my way. All right. Finally, there is a $25 fee to enter a piece for SVA consideration, and you'll be taken to, once you submit your form, you're taken to a payment page, and we're looking for that fee payment before the piece will be turned over to the judges for answers. So $25 to enter the Saturday Visitor Awards in either category, and each piece. If there are multiple pieces that you are submitting or multiple segments for consideration, each segment that you're submitting will have its own fee. Now, when it comes, I'm going to go back to long form here because I want to sort of make this clear when it comes to eligibility. When it comes to series, obviously there could be many, many components of a series created over time, and especially the individual who sent her questions this week. It was such a great question because she has a series of books that she has created, and the segment that she is considering entering, that particular segment, but she's been is inspired by Poe, but she's been creating this series for quite a while. It is appropriate and allowed to send a segment from a series as long as that series fits within that period of eligibility that we are talking about, going back to January 1st, 2018 to December 31st, 2020. So the piece must have been printed, distributed, or first performed in that period of time. Okay, right. Any other questions this evening? Well, I will look for those, but in the meantime, want to encourage you to connect with us, PoeFest International here on Facebook. We're also Poe Baltimore on Facebook, PoeFest International, and also Poe Baltimore on Twitter. We are on Instagram, and then as well, some of our folks out there might be watching us on YouTube Live. So we are on YouTube as Poe Baltimore, but Poe Baltimore is a nonprofit organization that keeps the Edgar Allan Poe House and Museum open both in person and online. We keep Poe's Chamber Door open to you. So if you would like to support the Edgar Allan Poe House and Museum or support the International Edgar Allan Poe Festival and Awards, please consider making a donation. Text Poe Baltimore to 44321. All right. Any other questions? Looking for those questions tonight? All right. Well, thank you. Putting myself back here, starting my camera. There we go. Thank you, everybody. I hope taking care out there, being creative, really looking forward to the works that we will see. You've got one more week to get ready, get that energy going, and then let it fly on the 19th to send your entries in. But another observation made in discussion this past week is to note that many people may have created or released their works into the pandemic last year, and then the pieces that we're going to see in the next few years are going to be from this very fraught historic time. So very interested to see what happens? Very Poe-like time. I think we've made that observation before in these interviews and these Q&As, that this is a time that Poe maybe even would have recognized. But we're going to get through it. And again, wonderful things can come from humble beginnings, and we'll be strong together and creative together. So, all right, I don't see any other questions. Thank you guys for joining us this evening. And again, one more week, join us next Monday at 8 p.m. for our next interview. And have a good week, guys. Take care of each other.